Let me tell you something strange about the way the human brain sees reality. We walk through the world believing we're witnessing truth, absolute and untouched. But the truth is far more unsettling. We don't see reality. We interpret it. Every sight you've ever seen, every memory you hold, every judgment you've made is not a reflection of the world, but a reflection of your mind. Two people can look at the same moment and walk away with two different worlds. And the question is, why? Why does the brain, a machine built to keep us alive, distort what is real? Why do we mistake perception for truth? The answer begins with attention. Your brain receives millions of signals every second, but it allows only a tiny fraction to reach consciousness. Not because the rest is meaningless, but because your mind chooses what matters based on your past, your fears, your identity, your expectations. Your attention is not a camera, it's a spotlight. What it illuminates becomes your world. What it ignores fades into nothingness. And the spotlight is always moving, always reshaping what you believe is real, but even the spotlight lies. Your brain fills in the gaps instantly, confidently, invisibly. It builds shapes that aren't there, creates connections out of randomness, writes stories from fragments. You don't just perceive reality, you predict it before it unfolds. Psychologists call this top-down processing, the mind shaping perception before perception begins. Your brain uses memories, beliefs, and patterns to guess what's coming next, and most of the time it gets it right. But sometimes those guesses become illusions, misunderstandings, distortions you mistake for truth. This is why arguments happen. It's why people misjudge each other. It's why the world feels different depending on your mood. We're not reacting to reality. We're reacting to the version of reality our brain constructs. And that version is deeply personal. Think about memory. We believe memory is a recording, something fixed and reliable. But it's not. Memory is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, the memory changes a little. It shifts with your emotions. It bends with your beliefs. It becomes softer or sharper depending on who you've become since the moment happened. You're not remembering the past. You're remembering your last memory of it. Your history rewrites itself quietly, slowly, invisibly, and you carry those rewrites as if they were facts. In that sense, your past is not fixed. It's fluid. It morphs as you do. Two people can share an experience and decades later swear by two different versions of it because neither is lying. Their minds simply rebuilt the story in different ways. That's the power and the limitation of the human brain. It protects us, but it also blinds us. Now consider emotion. Emotions don't just color experience, they shape perception itself. When you're afraid, your brain sharpens threatening details and ignores everything else. When you're sad, your attention narrows. When you're joyful, the world feels wider, brighter, safer. We think we feel according to what we see, but most of the time, we see according to what we feel. This is why the same day can feel completely different depending on your mindset. The world didn't change. You did. Interpretation is not optional. It's constant, continuous, inescapable. But perception is only the beginning. The next layer is thinking, the engine behind your judgments, decisions, reactions. Thinking feels conscious, deliberate, rational. But psychology reveals something different. Most of your thoughts are automatic, reflexive. They rise from instinct, memory, and habit long before you realize you're thinking them. These automatic thoughts are guided by mental shortcuts called cognitive biases. They help you make quick decisions, but they also distort your understanding. Confirmation bias leads you to notice only what supports your beliefs. Negativity bias makes the painful moments louder than the joyful ones. Anchoring makes the first thing you hear feel like the truth. The spotlight effect convinces you others are watching you when they aren't. The halo effect makes attractive things seem good even when they're not. These shortcuts simplify life, but they warp your reality. Your brain didn't evolve for truth, it evolved for survival. Accuracy is optional. Efficiency is everything. That's why the mind creates patterns even where none exist, why it jumps to conclusions, why it fills silence with meaning. Your brain hates uncertainty. It would rather tell you a convincing lie than sit in the discomfort of the unknown. But here's the twist. Once you understand how your mind works, you can begin to see beyond its illusions. Awareness doesn't erase distortion, but it reveals it. It turns unconscious reactions into conscious choices. You start to question the first story your mind offers. You pause before assuming. You notice the lens instead of blindly looking through it. And in that pause, a new kind of clarity emerges. Some people reach this awareness after heartbreak, failure, or trauma, moments that shatter the old way of seeing, moments that force the mind to rebuild. Psychologists call this cognitive restructuring. It's not just healing, it's reconstruction, a redesign of how you interpret reality itself. Others reach it slowly through reflection, solitude, or curiosity. They begin noticing how each thought carries a shadow of something older, how each belief roots back to something taught, inherited, or once needed. They start unlearning the illusions. They start seeing the architecture behind their own mind. There's something quietly transformative about that. When you understand that your thoughts are not facts, you stop being controlled by them. When you realize your perception is filtered, you stop mistaking it for truth. When you understand that your emotions guide your attention, you stop letting them define your reality. But here's the deeper layer, something most people never consider. Reality itself doesn't feel the same for everyone because the brain is subjective by design. The world you see, the world you fear, the world you trust, the world you doubt, it's all shaped by neural pathways carved over years of living. Your culture shapes your perception, your upbringing shapes your beliefs, your trauma shapes your danger signals, your hope shapes your expectations. Your mind is not a mirror, it's a map. And every map has borders drawn by experience. This is why some people see opportunities where others see threats, why some interpret silence as peace and others interpret it as rejection, why some see kindness in someone's eyes while others see danger in the same gaze. Everyone is living in the same world, but not in the same reality. And maybe understanding this makes you more patient with yourself and with others. Because when you realize every person is reacting not to what is, but to what their mind perceives, you start seeing the world through softer eyes. Still, interpretation can become a trap. When you believe your perception is truth, you stop questioning. When you stop questioning, your mind becomes rigid. It becomes certain. Certainty feels safe, but it blinds you. Growth happens in doubt, in curiosity, in the willingness to consider that your first thought might not be the right one. This is why some of the wisest people are not the ones who know the most, but the ones who question the most. They live with awareness that the mind is flawed, that perception is limited, that truth is layered. They walk through life with humility, knowing that every conclusion is temporary, and yet, despite all these distortions, the mind is not your enemy, it's your interpreter, your protector, your storyteller. It organizes chaos into meaning, it turns randomness into narrative, It helps you navigate a world too complex to experience raw. Without interpretation, you'd be overwhelmed. But with awareness, interpretation becomes a tool, not a prison. So the next time you feel certain about what someone meant or what someone felt or what something looked like, pause. Ask yourself, is this real or is this my interpretation of it? That question alone can change the entire direction of your life. Because in the end, you don't live in the world as it is. You live in the world as your mind allows you to see it. And when you learn to see the lens instead of the illusion, you begin to understand not just the world around you, but yourself.